Hey, it's Houdini of Pyromaniac.com coming at you with a Pyro Pro Videocast. I'm going to be doing these every week. We'll be basically going over waiver wires on the week and who are the best guys to go after and quick hits on why I think these guys are the real potential guys to add. So I'm not going to do it in any particular order of all positions. I'm going to kind of go through it more on these are the guys that you most want to get to the guys that are to deeper leagues if you're in them. So basically when we're looking at guys that are available, they're still available at least in 70% or less of leagues that they're owned in. So then there's only the most guys like Ronnie Hillman, for example. If he's available in your league, I think you're going to want to grab this guy. He's owned in 67% of CBS leagues. I'm a CJ Anderson owner in a league, and wow, I am completely disappointed in everything that I'm seeing from him. I'm really praying that the bulk of what was wrong with him on Thursday night had to do with the toe injury and being on the short week, and hopefully this extra break is going to help him out. But in the meantime, if he continues to struggle, they're not hesitating to bring in Ronnie Hillman, and it's going to behoove you to grab him. Let's talk about a guy that's just been electric. Let's talk about some rookies. Two electric rookie running backs that lit it up on this weekend. How about David Johnson? David Johnson opened the game against the Bears with a 108-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. So if you're in a league that also rewards for the return yards and special teams touchdown, this guy is someone you want. He also had 5 carries for 42 yards at the touchdown and 3 yards on one catch. So he is definitely going to see his role increase. Even when Andre Ellington comes back, they're going to find ways to get this guy the ball. He's too electric and too fast once he has it. Chris Johnson is not the Chris Johnson of CJ2K, so he's really not going to threaten him that much. David Johnson is going to see an increased role, and you always have the opportunity for another injury for Andre Ellington. Matt Jones. Okay, Alfred Morris owners, you have got to be a little bit worried about this one. Matt Jones steps in, and the guy lights it up, runs for 123 yards, added 23 more yards receiving, finishes with 2 rushing touchdowns. The guy showed the burst. He's able to get around the corner. Alfred Morris does what Alfred Morris does. He's a great running back who's able to plod his way through, get himself those tough yards in a cloud of dust, and always moving the pile forward. But he does not have the ability to break the big runs like Matt Jones did. So with that performance, you can guarantee that there's going to be more of a timeshare going on there. Matt Jones is a great guy to buy on. You know how the shelf span on on running backs, not rookies, on running backs is very short in the NFL. When you have a rookie that's performing like Matt Jones did, you're going to find ways to get him the ball more often. How about, I don't know what's going on in the waters by Lake Erie over there, but the Cleveland Browns with Johnny Manziel at quarterback, they're hardly throwing the ball at all. He attempted 15 passes last week, people. 15 passes. But Travis Benjamin caught 3 of those passes, because he only completed 8, but 3 of them completed to Benjamin, for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Each touchdown, long touchdown, 51-yarder and a 60-plus touchdown. So this guy, if you're in a long touchdown league for bonuses, you definitely want to be looking at Travis Benjamin. You know it's going to be hit or miss, and you're not always going to get the production out of him, especially with the lack of throwing that Cleveland does. But he's definitely going to get his shots per game. If you're in a deeper league and you're able to play that last position and they get bonuses. Also, if you get bonuses for kick returns, this guy also had about 158 punt return yards, including a 78-yard touchdown. So you got to like what's going on there. Devonta Freeman, he's going to get the opportunities just because of the fact that Tevin Coleman is hurt right now. But as far as him being a guy that really thrills me in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to say no. That also goes to one that excites me more than Devonta Freeman is I would rather be going after, from the another injury on this weekend of Eddie Lacy, I'd rather go for James Starks. Starks is a guy that knows the offense. He still has all these other weapons around him, so they're not like they're going to be stacking the box against him. Aaron Rodgers puts him in situations to be successful. He showed you this last week against Seattle that he can run effectively against a tough defense. So I think with Eddie Lacy, if they're able to kind of rest him maybe give him a week or two off. Starks is a nice plug and play for these next couple weeks. But let's talk about a guy that I want to put above those guys, because this is a guy who has proven that he's going to be a legitimate player throughout the year, especially if you're in PPR, people. That's Dion Lewis. Okay, LeGarrette Blount comes back last week. LeGarrette Blount hardly touched the ball. It was 2 carries. Dion Lewis led the team in carries with 7 carries, but it was like for 40 yards, scores a touchdown, also adds you 6 receptions for 98 yards. He was targeted 9 times. This is on a team where Julian Edelman is seeing a ridiculous amount of targets. Gronkowski sees a ton of targets. Aaron Dobson saw a ton of targets, and I'll talk about him in a minute. But here's Dion Lewis. This is the role that Shane Vereen had. This is the position that became in vogue of the receiving. Remember, Danny Wood had before that. They love this type of a player, and this type of a player always scores. When Danny Woodhead was on New England, he'd always become a top 25 fantasy running back, and you can envision the same thing that would have been for Shane Vereen had he stayed healthy. Well, that's going to be the same type of a thing for Dion Lewis, because he's going to continue to put up points, and there are so many other weapons around him that he doesn't have to be the guy that has to carry the full load. So let's talk about Aaron Dobson. Aaron Dobson is available in your league. Dogmatico is right. This guy's he's in 0% of CBS leagues unless you're in a super deep league. He's available. Dobson is filling the role of Brandon LaFell. Brandon LaFell is on the PUP list, so he's not coming back, at least for the first 6 weeks he's out. So then, in the meantime, here's Dobson. He goes into that role. It's him, not Amendola. Amendola is a clone of Julian Edelman, and he really needs something to happen to Edelman. As we saw this week, I think he was only targeted twice after seeing a lot more targets in week 1, and all of those targets instead went to Aaron Dobson. So, Dobson took 8 targets, caught 7 passes for 87 yards. He's got all the tools. He's understanding of the offense. He's the one guy that they kept around after they jettisoned all the other wide receivers there. So you have to believe that they understand what he can do, and they like him. So I'm on board. He's a guy that in my deeper leagues I am definitely targeting. Let's talk about a couple of handcuffs in 2 different positions, one a running back, one a wide receiver. So running back, if you're a LaShawn McCoy owner, man, you've really got to be hating on Carlos Williams right now, because Carlos Williams comes in, vultures a touchdown. He's got 6 carries in the game. LaShawn McCoy has yet to have 20 carries in a game through 2 games. So Carlos Williams has a touchdown in both of those games. This is not the type of news that you want to be hearing if you're a LaShawn McCoy owner. But if you are a McCoy owner, I think it would behoove you to grab this guy if he's available. He's only owned in 46% of CBS leagues. And, if something happens to McCoy, which he's already was dinged up in the preseason, Carlos Williams is going to be the guy that's going to step in and take over. Another guy, let's talk about one of my favorite receivers now that my Dez is hurt. I have to lean everything on Julio Jones, and I have him in my main league, and thank God I do. But I'm also targeting Leonard Hankerson to be my handcuff to Julio. Hankerson was really put on a nice show during the preseason and endeared himself to the coaching staff there. Dan Quinn really likes him, so he really likes everything that he has to offer. Hankerson this last week had 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. Roddy White is getting old in the tooth, or long in the tooth. So this is a player that is going to be the one that's going to step up there. So I definitely think that Hankerson's a guy that I would be targeting, especially if you are a Julio Jones owner. And if you own Roddy White, you may want to definitely target him and think about benching Roddy. So let's just talk about a couple of guys quickly on the West Coast. Stevie Johnson, if he's still available in your league, the guy's going to be legit. You better add. Stevie Johnson's owned in 70% of CBS leagues, but he's going to be there legitimately for the rest of the season. So you can count on Stevie Johnson. Also, Michael Crabtree. This guy only owned in 37%. He will be available. He and Amari Cooper both had over 100 yards and a touchdown this past week. Those are guys that I definitely like. Brandon Coleman is a guy that I'm not liking anymore, especially with the news of Drew Brees. And some deep play guys that you may think of. You can look to a Tyrod Taylor if you're really hurting a quarterback. He made a lot of mistakes, 3 interceptions, 2 fumbles. But the fact remains that he is going to get the chances at this point in time. If he continues to make the fumbles and interceptions, then it all goes bad. Rashard Matthews in Miami, look out for this guy. He's been in the offense for a while. Everybody else is still kind of feeling their way in there. Kenny Stills has really not figured out what's going on, so Matthews has a great opportunity to be the man that steps into that second role next to Jarvis Landry. So he's a guy that I like, and the way that they pass the ball there and the ineffective running of Lamar Miller leads me to believe that this might be a guy that you want. So I'm going to leave her at there. I'm not telling you to get Brandon Weeden. I'm saying avoid Dallas right now. It's not a good situation. But we'll be back to you next week, give you more knowledge and waiver wire advice. So until then, Houdini out.